Today we're going to find out how Samsung's Galaxy Tab S10 Ultra, which was released with a more powerful and more efficient chip, updated accessories, and a new anti-reflective display compares with the M4 iPad Pro. Okay, so starting out with the two OLED displays, I really like the new anti-reflective coating Samsung used this year, and it should definitely help when you're using the tablet outside or when you have to deal with bright lights. Now, quickly looking at the specs, the iPad Pro has a 13-inch Ultra Retina XDR display with a resolution of 2752 by 2064, an aspect ratio of 4:3, 120Hz adaptive refresh rate, and a pixel density of 264 pixels per inch. The Tab S10 Ultra has a larger 14.6-inch dynamic AMOLED 2X display with a resolution of 2960 by 1848, a 16:10 aspect ratio, 120Hz adaptive refresh rate, and 239 pixels per inch. Now, both displays are fantastic. They're the biggest and best displays that each company has in a tablet, so you're going to be happy with either one in terms of quality. But let's talk about some more important differences. Now, because both are OLED displays, we have per pixel control. We're getting incredible image quality and color, very dark blacks, and excellent contrast ratio. But Apple did something very different with their display. They're actually using two stacked OLED layers, and in the industry that's called a two-stack tandem structure OLED display, and Apple calls theirs tandem OLED. Now, this technology has been around for a few years now, and it's been mostly used in cars. Now, what's unique about this display is that instead of one diode emitting light, Apple can light two diodes, which combine to create a brighter overall image. Now, when we compare peak brightness for HDR content, we're seeing that the iPad Pro is rated for 1600 nits versus 930 for the Tab S10 Ultra, and that's a meaningful difference. But even if you're just navigating around the home screen, using productivity apps, or watching SDR content, the M4 iPad Pro still has 1000 nits full screen sustained brightness. So here we have to choose between the brighter display on the iPad Pro or the less reflective one on the Tab S10 Ultra. Now, when you're watching movies or videos, the aspect ratio of 16:10 on the Tab S10 Ultra is closer to the aspect ratio of the content. And on top of that, the display itself is larger, so you end up getting a much bigger image with smaller black bars at the top and the bottom. And if you zoom to fill the screen on both devices, there's a much smaller crop on the Tab S10 Ultra. Now, if you're using these tablets in portrait mode, like I have them here, you can see more content on the Tab S10 Ultra without having to scroll. And as far as width, because they're essentially the same, you're not really getting penalized with a narrower device when you're taking handwritten notes. Now, the Tab S10 Ultra does have a small notch which houses the camera module, and it's right on top in the middle of the long edge. Now, personally, I'm not really bothered by it at all. It's just like it doesn't bother me with any of the MacBook Pros. But if that's something that you don't want and you still want all of these same features, you can go with the smaller Tab S10 Plus. All right, so when it comes down to it, we're having to pick between two incredible displays. I would probably still use the Tab S10 Ultra if I was watching a movie because it's really hard to beat this larger display. But in terms of actual image quality, brightness, and color accuracy, I'm going to give the edge to the iPad Pro, and it would be my choice if I needed the brightest display or if I'm editing photos or videos. Now, if I'm actually looking for the best anti-reflective option, there is a nano texture glass option for the iPad Pro, which is outstanding in challenging lighting environments. It's available in the 1 and 2 terabyte models, and it costs an additional $100. Now, a larger display also means a bigger form factor, and these are the largest tablets that Apple and Samsung make. What's different this year is that Samsung did not release the smaller Tab S10, so we're only getting the 14.6-inch Ultra, then the 12.4-inch Tab S10 Plus. Apple, on the other hand, has an 11 and a 13-inch iPad Pro, and both have the same features. Now, speaking of features, Apple Intelligence is not currently available in an official release, and Galaxy AI is fully functioning on the Tab S10 Ultra. So you could do things like circle to search with Google, where you literally just circle anything on your screen and then the tablet will do a Google search for you and show you the results. You can use Galaxy AI to do things like solve math problems, translate documents, transcribe and summarize audio files, and even turn my horrible sketches into images. So at least for now, this is an easy win for the Tab S10 Ultra, and I'm super excited to do a more detailed AI comparison when Apple Intelligence is released. Now, from a design standpoint, both tablets have flat edges and rounded corners, but the Tab S10 Ultra has smaller bezels. Now, this is great because we're getting a larger display in a relatively small footprint, but at the same time, you're more likely to inadvertently activate the touchscreen with the inside of your thumb, which does happen to me when I'm gaming. Now, both devices are super thin, with the edge actually going to the iPad Pro at 5.1 millimeters versus 5.4 millimeters on the Tab S10 Ultra. Ultra. The iPad Pro is also lighter at 579 grams versus 718 grams on the Tab S10 Ultra, but of course it's also the smaller tablet, so that's expected. Now in terms of durability, both have been solid so far. I haven't had any issues with bending, but I also don't try to bend my tablets, and most of the time they are in a case. I'm going to give the edge here to the Tab S10 Ultra because both the tablet and the S Pen have an IP68 rating, so I know that I get protection from water and dust. Both tablets have 4 speakers, and these continue to be the 2 best sounding tablets that I've tested. Now, if you use the speakers on your tablet for media consumption or when you're gaming, you're gonna be super happy with either one. The Tab S10 Ultra is a little bit louder and sounds brighter, and the iPad Pro sounds a little fuller, so you'll have to pick what's more important to you. Now, both tablets have USB-C ports for charging and connecting accessories. The one on the Tab S10 Ultra is 3.2, and on the iPad Pro, it's a more powerful Thunderbolt 4 port, which has faster transfer speeds. Now, if you're not really transferring a lot of files to and from your tablet, then this isn't really a meaningful difference for you. But if you regularly work with a large number of photo or video files, or if you're editing from an external drive, you'll appreciate the faster transfer speeds on the iPad Pro. Now, one feature that I love about the Tab S10 Ultra is that it has a micro SD card slot, so I can relatively inexpensively expand the internal storage by up to 1.5 terabytes, which can save me money. I can use this storage for files, photos, videos, and for most apps. Now, we continue to see differences when we look at biometric authentication, where the iPad Pro uses Face ID, and then the Tab S10 Ultra offers a great under-display fingerprint sensor and a less secure face recognition option. All 3 work great for me, so it comes down to whether you want the iPad with the more secure of the 2 facial biometric options, or if you want the versatility of multiple options with the Tab S10 Ultra. Now, I'm working on a battery drain test of the 4 most current tablets, but so far the Tab S10 Ultra has lasted me longer during a typical day of use, and it also has a larger battery at 11,200 mAh versus 10,290 on the iPad Pro. Of course, how much on-screen time you actually get from your tablet depends on the screen brightness, on what you do, and then at how efficient each chip is at those particular tasks. Now, when it comes to charging, the Tab S10 Ultra supports up to 45 watts and doesn't come with a charger. And with the iPad Pro, we get a 1-port 20-watt charger. Now, if you're like me, regardless of whether you're at home or work or you're traveling, you always have more than one device to charge, which brings me to a few fast and fun accessories. So the first one is this cool robot design charger from Ugreen called the Uno Charger 100 watts. It has a TFT smart display with status emojis, 3 USB-C ports, and a USB-A port, so you can charge up to 4 accessories at once. You can actually get up to 100 watts from a single port, and you can charge an iPhone 16 from 0 to 57% in just 30 minutes. And at the same time, it comes with the thermal guard system, so I know that my valuable gear is protected from overheating, overcharging, and excessive current. There's also an Uno wireless charger 15 watts, which is Qi2 certified. It can wirelessly give your iPhone 15 watts and your headphone 5 watts, and then there's still a USB-C port for your smartwatch with another 5 watts. So check the link in the description for a discount on Ugreen accessories, and thank you to Ugreen for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now let's take a look at some accessories that help expand the functionality of each tablet, and we're going to see some really important and practical differences. Looking at keyboard options, the iPad Pro is compatible with Apple's Magic Keyboard for iPad Pro and also some great third-party options. The Tab S10 Ultra is compatible with 2 different versions of the book cover keyboards from Samsung, and of course you can always use an external Bluetooth keyboard with either tablet. Now personally, I like the feel of the keys of the new Magic Keyboard. I like that Apple added a row of function keys. It's thinner and lighter than the previous model, and the new trackpad has haptic feedback, and it's even better than the previous one. The Magic Keyboard also has a USB-C pass-through, so you can charge the iPad from either direction or charge it using the keyboard while still having the USB-C port available to connect accessories. The Tab S10 Ultra keyboards do a better job at securing the S Pen so it doesn't fall off when it's in my bag. You have 2 different designs to choose from, and there's a new AI button. Moving on to stylus options, the Tab S10 Ultra comes with a free S Pen. It pairs wirelessly. It can be stored on the side or on the back of the Tab S10 Ultra, but it will only charge on the back. The iPad Pro is compatible with the USB-C version of the Apple Pencil, which costs $79, or the new Apple Pencil Pro, which pairs wirelessly, can be stored and charged on the side of the iPad, and costs $130. Now, the Apple Pencil Pro also offers features like barrel roll, which is useful with rotating shaped pen and brush tools, a squeeze function, which can be used to open a palette for a switching tool, tools, line weights, and colors, and it has haptic feedback. Now, the majority of these features are going to be mostly important to artists or creators, but the one added feature that everyone is going to like is that the new Apple Pencil Pro has Find My, so you can easily find where you left it. Now, the S Pen doesn't need to be charged to write or draw. It's only for the Bluetooth functions, whereas the Apple Pencil does need to be charged in order to write it all. Now, practically speaking, this isn't a very meaningful difference to me because the Apple Pencil is always being charged while it's being stored, and the battery lasts forever, but it's still worth mentioning. Now, you're able to assign a function to the button on the S Pen, which is very similar to the Apple Pencil's double tap function, but the S Pen also has several Bluetooth functions, so you can use it to take pictures, control media playback, and for several other useful tasks. And with both stylus options, latency is extremely low, but the actual writing or drawing experience is very different. The Apple Pencil Pro has a firm tip, so it's a little harsher when it hits the glass, and it feels like you're writing on a single sheet of paper that's placed on a hard surface. The S Pen has a softer tip, so when it hits the glass, it gives a little, and it feels more like you're writing on a full pad of paper where the pages compress as you press down. Now, one isn't objectively better than the other for every use case, so it's really gonna come down to what feels better for you, and I hope this description was useful. Now, both tablets also have some great multitasking capabilities. With the Tab S10 Ultra, you can have up to 3 apps open at the same time. You can resize each window to get the configuration that works best for you, and you can have pop-up windows. The iPad Pro can have 2 apps open at the same time, side by side in split view. You can have slide over windows, and you can have a pop-up window in the center. Now, something else that a lot of people should do is use either tablet as a secondary display for their laptop or desktop. Apple calls this feature Sidecar, and Samsung calls it second screen, so regardless of which one you get, you should try it. Now, an important advantage of the Tab S10 Ultra is that it can be booted up in DeX mode, which gives you a desktop-like user interface with a taskbar, desktop icons, and floating windows. You can even pair a keyboard, mouse, and an external monitor for an extremely powerful dual display setup. Apple does have Stage Manager for the iPad Pro, which means that you can connect an external display without black bars on the left and the right. You can also extend your desktop to the external display and move apps and windows to it for a true dual display setup. Now, it's great that Apple continues to expand the functionalities of the iPad. I love how fluid and seamless multitasking is, and at the same time, the Tab S10 Ultra has a larger display. You can have 3 tiled apps, and it has DeX. So, in my opinion, it's still the more capable multitasking option. Now, looking at the camera systems, both front-facing cameras are on the long edge, so I'm always properly framed and looking at the person that I'm talking to. The iPad has a 12 megapixel ultra-wide front-facing camera, and the Tab S10 Ultra has a 12 megapixel wide and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide. The iPad Pro can record it up to 1080p 60, and the Tab S10 Ultra can go up to 4K 30, and here's a quick sample. Here's a camera and microphone test of the M4 iPad Pro and the Tab S10 Ultra. This should give you a pretty good idea of the type of image quality that you're going to get, and the type of audio quality that you should expect from either tablet for video calls. Now, moving on to the rear-facing camera modules, the Tab S10 Ultra has a 13 megapixel wide and an 8 megapixel ultra-wide versus a single 12 megapixel wide on the iPad Pro. Both tablets have a flash, but the iPad Pro also includes a LiDAR scanner, which can be great for autofocus in low light and for augmented reality apps. Now, as far as configuration options, the iPad Pro comes with the M4 chip, and the models with 256 and 512 gigabytes of storage come with 8 gigs of RAM, and the 1 and 2 terabyte models come with 16 gigs of RAM. With the Tab S10 Ultra, Samsung moved away from Qualcomm chips, and we're now getting a MediaTek Dimensity 9300 Plus. And the 256 and 512 gigabyte models come with 12 gigs of RAM, and the 1 terabyte model comes with 16 gigs of RAM. So let's check out benchmarks for those of you who are interested in seeing how the new MediaTek chip competes with Apple's most powerful chip. We can see that the M4 comes out ahead for single-core performance and for multi-core performance, and when we switch over and look at GPU performance, again we see the M4 come out ahead. For most things, this additional processing power is not super meaningful. Both tablets are super fast and responsive, but of course I expect the iPad Pro to perform better for longer. I'm still excited to see how the M4 chip will handle Apple Intelligence, but that's something that we're going to have to wait for. Now, when it comes to gaming, in terms of processing power, both tablets right now play games like PUBG, COD Mobile, and Genshin resolution without any problems. Playing PUBG, I can go up to 120 frames per second on both tablets with graphics set to smooth, or all the way up to Ultra HD for graphics and Ultra for frame rate. Now, looking at gaming performance, I'm definitely going to give the edge to the iPad Pro. It won't really matter for less demanding games, but games are going to continue to evolve and demand more and more resources, and there's no question that the iPad Pro is ahead. Now, in terms of comfort, you need to consider which games you play and how you hold your tablet. So for some users, the larger Tab S10 Ultra could be a little bit too big and a little heavy if you're having to hold it for a long period of time. If you play games where the tablet is flat on the desk or on a pillow, then the Tab S10 Ultra is excellent and the larger display is great. Now, when I want to play cloud-based games, I just pair my Xbox controller and then I can play any game that's available with the Xbox Game Pass app. In that context, I primarily use the tablet as a display, so I prefer the larger Tab S10 Ultra. But what about when we look at general apps and long-term support? There are lots of apps in the Galaxy Store, the Google Play Store, and the Apple App Store, so the majority of users are easily going to find the apps that they need. Still, some creative-specific apps like Affinity Photo and Procreate are only available for the iPad, so if you absolutely need those two apps, go ahead and get the iPad Pro. Obviously, Final Cut Pro is only available for the iPad, but LumaFusion, which has historically been an iPad-only app, is available for Android, and it's a great option. And Notability is only available for the iPad, but GoodNotes has an Android version, and Samsung Notes is actually an outstanding option, and it comes included with the Tab S10 Ultra. Now, overall, I definitely give the edge to the iPad Pro because almost every app is specifically optimized for a tablet, whereas with the Tab S10 Ultra, a lot of the apps are stretched out versions of the phone apps, which can look oversized on such a large tablet. Now, as far as operating system support, Apple has always provided excellent long-term support, and now Samsung offers 7 years of OS updates and 7 years of security updates. So it's great to see that you're covered for a long time, regardless of which option you use. But what about price and configuration options? I'm going to use the prices off the Apple and Samsung stores because they're standardized, but you can usually find better prices using the links in the description. Now, the base models of both tablets start out with 256 gigabytes, and the iPad Pro is more expensive at $1299 versus $1199 on the Tab S10 Ultra. If you need the most and fastest internal storage, the iPad Pro goes all the way up to 2 terabytes. The Tab S10 Ultra maxes out at 1 terabyte, but you can use a micro SD card for much less expensive additional storage. Also remember that if you want a stylus, the S Pen is included with the price of the Tab S10 Ultra, and the Apple Pencil Pro will cost you an extra $130. The iPad is offered with 5G, and at least in the US, we do not have a 5G version of the Tab S10 Ultra, so if you need a cellular model, you'll need to get the Tab S10 Plus. Now you should check out this comparison. You know what I always say, buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.